Hi, Floppers. Before we start our regular nonsense, we wanted to make sure you knew the Flophouse is going on a 4-city West Coast tour this January. It's the Flophouse Errors Tour, the biggest event in pop culture entertainment this year. Probably. You can see us in Vancouver on Wednesday, January 24th at the Rio Theater, in Portland on Thursday, January 25th at the Aladdin Theater, in San Francisco on Friday, January 26th at Cobb's Comedy Club as part of San Francisco Sketchfest, and in Los Angeles on Sunday, January 28th at the Regent Theater. For tickets, go to flophousepodcast.com/events. Again, that's flophousepodcast.com/events. The Flophouse Live. It's like the podcast, but you can smell us. And now, without further ado, our regular nonsense.
On this episode, we discuss Rebel Moon, Part 1, A Child of Fire.
More like 7 Shamurai, am I right?
Like Shamu, the killer whale? They're all killer whales?
No, you know what I meant. Come on.
Shampoo?
It was a hot one, guys. It was a hot one, and you chilled it out. Come on.
Chilled champagne?
No, you know. Come on.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
The original Child of Fire himself, Elliot Kalin.
Yep.
You know it. You know it.
Now, I mean, I don't want to get into things too far ahead. We have to
Yes, I
introduce
was
what
born
the
of flame. I was born in flames, yes, like a phoenix.
show is, but the Child of Fire, I guess, is the main lady because of how the war.
Well, Dan,
did a thing
this is a podcast where we watch a bad movie and then we talk about it. Yeah. So the Child of Fire, I'm not sure if it's Korra, or if it is the princess who has the power to bring dead things back to life that we see in one flashback.
Yeah.
Basically nothing about it at this point.
Yeah.
We know she's fucking magic, dude.
Names of the movie after a character we see in one scene, basically.
It is. I mean, that's the Titus Groan, the first volume of Gormenghast, is named after a character who appears as a baby near the end of the movie.
Well, Titus Groan did it.
If Mervyn Peake could get away with it in his Gormenghast trilogy, then Zack Snyder can do it in the Rebel Moon series.
Okay, well, this isn't a Gormenghast trilogy podcast. This is a podcast where we watch a bad movie.
I wish it was.
And then we talk about it.
Yeah.
In this case, we returned to one of the Flophouse's hit makers. Mm-hmm. Wait, there was an S missing from that sentence. Zack Snyder, who we talked about. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. He's done so many of them. This is his. So he's been in the DC universe for a long time.
When we last saw Zack Snyder, he was treating the Justice League with the same level of somber, serious depression that he would treat, say, a major natural disaster or a genocide.
Yeah. And everyone was excited. They're like, what will Zack Snyder do when he's freed from having to do pre-existing IP? And it turns out...
He walked into Star Wars Studios and was like, I want to make 7 Samurai in space. And they're like, no.
That is what happened. That is the backstory to this.
Exactly what happened.
He wanted to do a Star Wars version of 7 Samurai for a long time. And they... I don't know how far down that road it went, but it
sounds like it went very short down the road. It sounds like it was a pitch.
Yeah. And so he's like, fine, I'll just make my own Star War. And he changed very little.
I mean, which is how things happen sometimes. Like there's any number of comic book series that start out as one thing, as a pitch for a pre-existing character, and then become their own thing. But they usually do a little bit more of a job of...
beloved television show *Halt and Catch Fire* started out as a fucking Mad Men spec script or some shit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that.
And beloved wank material *50 Shades of Grey* started out as Twilight fan fiction.
Exactly, but usually they go a little bit farther in changing it. Like for instance, *50 Shades of Grey* does not have a vampire character in it. And only in that all capitalism is a form of vampirism to a certain extent. But this one. he really doesn't go very far in rubbing the serial numbers off of the parts, and it feels like he's answering a question I think nobody had, which was, why doesn't Star Wars have more cursing and attempted sexual assault?
Yeah,
why doesn't Star Wars have more of that?
So much joy in the Star Wars universe. Can we just strip that out of there?
I mean, the Star Wars movies have been doing a pretty good job of stripping that out too.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But anyway,
he's also like, could we make it a little more beige? A little more brown?
His color palette is going to get to the point where it's just going to be a brown screen and you can barely see shadows going across.
I did think this was less brown than like his DC stuff has been.
There's certainly some ambers. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, like every once in a while, he would throw up an image that I would like on screen. He wouldn't vomit it up. He would throw it up.
No, I agree with you. Throw up an image. I feel like.
Although I did think to myself, I was like, what is it about this? Like, let's be honest. Like, if I saw this movie, if Dan, who was 12 years old with the special effects at the time, saw this movie, I'd be like, this looks gorgeous.
Well, but here's I think that gets at something, which is Dan at 12 years old had not seen a movie like this with these special effects. But at this point, you have.
There's that. But also, I think I was like trying to kind of figure out my problem visually with a lot of it. And I think that modern blockbuster films, this is not, just Zack Snyder, like throw so much stuff on the screen. They're like, it'll
Barbie.
be better if there's like a bunch of crap up there. Whereas I think like so many times, like a simpler visual with one amazing thing on screen rather than like 12 things you can't really see would be so much more effective.
12 things I hate about you.
Following the lead of George Lucas, who saw the old Star Wars movies and said, I wish I'd thrown more crap on the screen.
Yeah, not cluttered enough.
It needs more robots flying around just going, whoa, and then
more Rontos.
I think you're right, Dan, that, we'll get into it, but like it's a visually muddy and busy movie. And Zack Snyder is really going all out with the slow motion at times when I'm not sure why he's doing it. There's a scene a fight scene where a guy is falling on his butt after being knocked over. It felt like it was going on forever. Like I had taken a hit of that drug from Dread.
Slow-mo?
Yeah, slow-mo. I was just experiencing that moment for forever. But it's I think
fucking Dread kicks ass.
That's a good movie, guys. Go ahead and watch Dread instead of this
Dan,
one.
I had a similar thought and Stuart, I apologize. We'll let you get into the summary. But while I was watching it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull a Dan McCoy on this. I'm going to come at this movie hoping I like it, not prejudging and not being ready to criticize it, but hoping it makes me cry a couple times so that I'll kind of like it. And the first
like book club.
And maybe like the first 10, 15 minutes, I was like, you know what? I like space opera junk. I like dumb space colonies or whatever. I like when big empires are fighting rebels or whatever. But as the movie went on,
fertility rituals.
Yes, exactly. I love fertility rituals. I love sex positive farming communities on far off rim worlds. And but I was finding it's so predictable. It's so incredibly predictable, and it didn't get at what I think I like from space opera, which is when things are crazy or surprising. At the same time I was watching this movie, I was not simultaneously, but at the same day as I was watching this, I was reading the book The Wizard of Lynn by A.E. Van Vogt or Van Voigt. I've never known how to pronounce his last name. And his books are classic bonkers science fiction pulp in a crazy way. And the whole time I was reading it, I was like, why am I enjoying this book when I'm not enjoying this movie? And I think it's because the book kept surprising me and the movie did not. Stuart, tell us about this movie that did not surprise us.
I also, real quick, just before we get into this, as I'm handling summary duties, I think it's very important to point out that this is the first in, 2 or 3 movies?
At least 2, possibly 3 or more.
And it feels so much like the first episode of a series.
Yeah.
Barring that it has no exciting thing that happens right at the end. And it certainly, the story suffers from it, and I feel like on some level it feels harsh to critique it because there's like no story.
It's not telling a full story. That's true, but at the same time, it is. Oh, sorry, Dan. What are you going to say?
I'm going to say no. We can critique it all we want because there's recently we've seen a lot of this like in movies where no story can stand alone, and so either you've got stuff like Marvel movies where they're constantly setting up the next thing. Or a different flavor of Marvel movie over at Sony. People were mad at the new Spider-Verse movie. Like, I mean, people liked it, but they were like, I had no idea it was gonna. That's half a movie, and like, I'll tell
It's
you.
too bad. That half is amazing.
Yeah, half's amazing. You're wrong. But also, first off, like the Marvel movies, yes, they have a lot of like junk that doesn't need to, strictly speaking, be in a standalone movie because they're setting up all this other stuff that you may or may not care about. But they do tell like individual stories. And the Spider-Verse movie, which I think should have still had the like part 1 on it, so people who weren't paying attention to like all the stuff around it like would know, oh, I'm not going to get the ending. Like that has an emotional arc of the character, like, you know, finding all these other Spider-Men, like, you know, like wanting to be accepted, like going his own way. Like there's a whole, at least, character story that's being told here. This is literally a film that is like, we need to assemble a team to do a thing, and then the moment that team is fully assembled, they're like, well, credits, bye. And I'm like, fuck you.
I think what,
nothing happened.
The way you've said it, Dan, is you super that like you look at Dune Part 1, and it's like there's an emotional.
I looked at
arc.
it for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
it's
good.
a long movie. There's an emotional
cool.
arc for that character that ends on a high cliffhanger point. You're like, I can't wait to see what this character's going to do next. With Spider-Verse, I feel like they gain the ability to do that because, I mean, I was annoyed that the movie ended and I was like, oh, okay, I got to see another one of these. But the first movie is a full
You
movie.
gotta.
Well, I gotta, because my son wants to see it really badly. That the sequel, I feel like once you've had a full first story, the sequel can earns those points to possibly be part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And you look at the old Marvel
That's
movies,
a good point too.
Especially the old like the first Iron Man. I guess there's that thing. Do they have that teaser about the Avengers Initiative at the end? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but,
it's in the post-credit scene.
in the
It's not
post-
like
but
it's not
there's-
technically part of the movie, right? Then I normally would have turned off the movie long before I would have gotten to that point.
like the first Iron Man movie or the first Thor movie, it's like, okay, these are whole stories. Yeah, exactly. Like but this one, it really does feel like they're really relying on that part 1 very heavily, and yet somehow they spent 2 hours assembling this team, and by the time it was over, I felt like I knew none of these characters.
Well, let's get into that, huh?
Yeah, he's
Okay,
been
let's do
fondling
it.
these note cards hard.
I got my little note cards here.
James Lipton over here with his note cards. Yeah,
So that's James Lipton as what? The Amazing Kreskin?
that's James Lipton as Karnak, the Johnny Carson character. Now, I'm thinking of 3 movies. Christopher Walken, and they're like, yeah, Christopher Walken walks out. Yeah.
So
I mean, how else would Christopher Walken go out than to walk? I mean, if Christopher Walken swam out, his name would be Christopher Swimmin', right?
Wow,
That's how it works.
Do you run a meme account now? What's going on here? We, of course, the movie opens. We get an opening monologue. Hell yeah. It's Sir Anthony Hopkins dropping that shit, playing the role of Jimmy the Robot.
We don't know that yet, but
you'll find
You'll
out.
see it's Jimmy the Robot.
And then leave him behind.
Let me go
far
over
and away. The most lovable character in the whole movie, and he disappears after the first half.
As soon as he
After
shows
the first
up there,
half, he's like 15 minutes into the movie. You don't see any more of that robot.
That's true. Until the very end when you see him wearing his Yellow Jacket's antlers, but we'll get to that.
Anyway.
yeah, it's a fertility ritual. So the opening monologue talks about Mother World, an empire that is expanding and is super aggressive. However, the king and queen were assassinated, and now the evil Belisarius has taken over. And he has sent out a fleet to stop all the rebels. Now, the thing is, you don't need to do a fucking monologue, dude. This is simple shit. If you're
we've seen Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like if the movie had started with no monologue, I'd be like, yeah, I got it. I get it. Spaceship. We're in space. It's fine.
And now
the guys that look like Nazis are the bad ones.
Yeah, the guys with the cut class British accents and the Nazi outfits are the bad guys. Like they and
that are doing bad stuff. Like it's not like
the farmers. The guy who is beating people to death with a cane, with an evil looking cane. We can pick up that he's the bad guy.
You mean his bone staff, Elliot?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But Stuart, here's the thing. I was wondering while we were watching Star Wars, I was like, wait a minute, it's like a military type thing. And they serve a dead king. Is this a Warhammer ripoff?
Oh, shit. I mean, the thing is you got to give me a second because my heart is fluttering. Elliot has been paying attention to me when I talk about Warhammer shit. Oh, man.
I had no idea where he's
Stuart,
headed.
I listen
Senpai
and
noticed me.
I see you and I listen to you and I love you. Dan, still judgments out.
I mean, I think it's interesting.
No, I love you too,
I don't know if I'm assuming resounding flop of this movie, if it will negatively affect the recently signed Warhammer Amazon deal But we'll find out. Now, all this monologue is happening. We have a shot of space and kind of a very powerful image where a wormhole opens up in space that looks very vaginal.
Yes.
And
this was a
a
moment where I
long
was like,
cylindrical spaceship comes through.
maybe this movie will be better than I think it will. Maybe it'll be more of a David Lynch Dune, where everything is weird and or a David Cronenberg world where everything's vaginal or penile, and it won't just be a straightforward Seven Samurai.
David Lean would also do a pretty good Dune.
David Lean would have done an amazing Dune. It would not have looked like David Lynch's, but it would have.
It would have been different.
He would have. Who would have played? Alec Guinness would have played some character in it and been amazing. Yeah. Wow. What a David
Alec
Lean
Guinness as Stilgar.
I don't think. Yeah, I guess he probably would play Stilgar, but I'd
He'd have
rather
been
he
a great Stilgar.
Yeah, he'd be okay.
Well, I can feel one way and you another. So we open in a small rural village on Velt, which is kind of like a rim world, as Elliot said, an agri world out on the far reaches of the galaxy.
I mean, like agricultural, not aggro, like aggressive.
Yeah. We meet Cora, who is a farmer with a mysterious past, played by what else?
Sophia Boutella. She was in The Mummy as the Mummy, who was not Tom Cruise. The other, the
lady mummy, the first
Cruise
mummy.
Yeah.
She was the blade lady, blade leg having lady from that Kingsman movie, I think.
Yeah, she's in Atomic Blonde.
They keep putting her in big blockbusters, and I'll be honest, I have never found her compelling or charismatic, except in
Dan says she don't have the juice.
Star Trek From Beyond, where she plays a blue lady who has a lot of makeup on, so it's hard to tell that it's her, but she's good in that one.
Okay.
Well, she has a mysterious past, and she's going to be our main character, so I guess deal with it.
I did.
We also meet Gunnar, who is kind of an ambitious farmer. He's kind of outgrown this simple village, and he's trying to find ways to make. He's kind of smarter than his humble roots. And then I think that's the idea. I don't know.
We got to talk about him in a moment when something happens. We'll have a bigger discussion about that.
Okay, I mean, so many of these characters, they kind of do what the plot needs them to do at the moment, and then the movie kind of makes up why they did it. So he was at certain points he was Gambit, and at certain points he was Luke Skywalker. Yeah, and it's kind of hard to tell.
And he's played by an actor who I know has been in a bunch of stuff, but I mainly remember him as being an indie rock star on the TV show Nashville.
Yeah.
Okay.
In general, I think that's character
Mikael Huisman.
Oh, yep, that's him.
Is a interesting but not really successful attempt to like sort of gender swap the normal blockbuster roles, where he is the damsel in distress, and she is the like. Devil May Care hero, not Devil May Care, the tortured hero, sort of. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
who's a super fighter?
So the village, a village that seems to be made up entirely of people between the age of 20 and like 45.
They seem to kill their elderly and their young.
Yes, that's something that would be. We'll find out in part 2, I'm assuming.
Yeah. They send their young to boarding school and their elderly to another like an old folks village. Yeah.
Yeah, that all they send them to Providence, the capital of the planet.
The village is Florida's friendliest hometown, Trump country. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of villages, the village has a harvest festival, has like a harvest feast, and the leader of the village, the father of the village, Sindri, played by Corey Stallworth, that's right, a pretty cool beard, gives a very horny speech about how the important thing they should be doing is fucking.
Everybody gets a speech in this movie, and this is his. I guess he gets a couple.
His. Yeah, he gets a couple. He's great. Do I wish he had a hairpiece like in The Strain? Yes, of course I wish he had a crazy hairpiece.
But he has that great crazy beard.
He does have a great crazy beard. I'll shut up. I'll take what I'm given. So Cora's adoptive father, Hagen, tries to convince her to settle down, that's the one way that she'll really become part of their community. But she's not so sure. She's got a mysterious past. Next day, an Imperial dreadnought arrives into orbit, and Cora runs over and sounds a bell, and it's like everyone can see it. Like, I don't know what you're hammering that thing for. and the village gets
plot
together.
blindness. It's the same thing that kept Mahershala Ali from seeing that plane crash in the world, Leave the World Behind, until he needed to. Plot blindness keeps you from
almost called
seeing
it,
the thing.
You almost called it The World Is Not Enough.
I did almost call it that, yeah. Because that's the movie
Leave
I always
the
wish I'm
world
watching.
behind. That would be great if it had like James Bond style opening credits with like things being projected on Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts.
I mean, speaking of James Bond openings, this movie needed something like, why didn't they throw in some kind of juiced up action moment right at the beginning? Like,
I don't know.
I
kind of appreciate that. I don't know. I'm tired of every blockbuster having to like start with an action sequence and then like circling back to like, like we're starting off low. Okay. I don't know. I guess I've just seen too many movies that I'm tired of everything. Everything a movie could do.
So when you're tired of tricks, straightforward storytelling can be really good. And this, I wish there was more story because they're telling it fairly straightforwardly, even though until the movie becomes a series of action scenes interspersed with flashback monologues. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So the town gets together and they have a quick chat. They have a quick chat before the bad guys show up because Gunner has sold their surplus of grain and whatnot to their harvest surplus to the rebels. And they don't want the Imperials to find out. Bad guys arrive. They are super Nazi looking. Although there are a couple of dudes with wacky headdresses that just kind of hover around the background, like those guys.
I like that. I was looking up stuff about Rebel Moon, and this image kept coming up of this lady with huge horns, and I'm like, wish that was in the movie. I guess that's in one of the sequels. But anytime a character has a weird headdress or weird mask, I love it. I like that. Yeah,
these guys are so comically bad, and I'm not saying that there aren't
comically evil. You mean
comically? Yeah, well, bad as in like bad people.
No, but I didn't. But you don't mean comically bad, like they're like like
I understand
not bad
you're
acting,
clarifying. I think that the rest of my context would be easy for people to understand.
All right, I just don't want people to jump to conclusions too fast.
Comically evil characters, and I'm not saying that there aren't comically evil people who exist in life, including, say, the Nazis, who were the obvious inspiration for these people. But like they're evil even sort of within their own ranks in a way that I'm like, it frustrates me. Like, I'm just like, what is this bullshit? Like, there's like that one guy who's like, look at me. I'm going to start shooting at our own robots.
That's pretty crazy.
I'm like, it's a guy that on a military mission, you want this person along. It seems like a problem.
I mean, he does seem like the kind of guy you would send to a far-off colony world to get him out of there. But he's working with a major league bad guy. This is like the right-hand man of General Belisarius, right?
Belisarius, yep. This is, okay. So the soldiers and bad guys are led by Admiral Atticus Noble. Did he? Okay,
I don't know.
Pretty
Sounds
cool.
like he's got a pretty nice name.
Pretty cool. Maybe a second pass on that one then.
And he's played by returning Flophouse actor Ed Skrein, who was also in Alita: Battle Angel, the movie that first introduced us to Dan's love of backstory. So Dan, I hope you like this movie.
Get ready for a shovelful. He's also, I believe, he took over the Transporter franchise from Mr. Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Okay, so Atticus Noble is hunting rebels, specifically the Devra and Darian Bloodaxe, which you say a name like that, I'm like, I got to meet those fuckers.
They are very disappointing when we finally meet them.
Yeah,
they don't seem like blood axes.
So also Devra and Darian. That sounds like someone like. I'm getting a Christmas card from around this time of year.
Yeah, I feel like Deborah Bloodaxe is a 4th or 5th generation Bloodaxe name. Like first it's like Skinflay Bloodaxe, and then like Warscream Bloodaxe, and then Harry Bloodaxe, and then his daughter Deborah Bloodaxe. Yeah.
It is just to clarify. So, it's Devra's. In case I don't want anyone to write angry letters.
It's Devra, which is a super cool name.
Yeah, Devra's. Yeah, you put a V in a name, and it's always cool.
So we have
like Steven.
We have an attempt at a tense sequence where Sindri is trying to appease the admiral. I guess I should just call him Noble because I'm gonna have to say his name a bunch. He tries to appease him, and then Noble just beats Sindri to death with his like walking stick that looks like a leg bone, like a femur.
Yeah.
So they kill him, and then they say they demand that in 10 weeks they're going to return, and they're going to basically need the village's entire harvest.
Well, and
So
this is
this is
after
where-
Gunnar. This is after Gunnar has basically sold out Sindri in a way that he thought was being clever and helping them out, but leads
Yeah.
to Sindri being beaten to death.
And this is what I wanted to talk to with this farmer character, where to me, I think that this movie makes kind of a mistake here in terms of like building the sympathies for these characters, because like in real life, this is a mistake that I could see being made. Like you think you're gonna get away with something, you think it's gonna be okay,
Mhm.
like it all goes horribly wrong, and like. In life, like this is the sort of thing that you'd be like, okay, like I see that you didn't mean that. Like I'm not going to hold like this person's like death against you, maybe. But in fiction, I'm like, what, this guy a fucking idiot? Like he's been like told to do it a certain way. Like clearly, like these people are like not to be trifled with. Like he's been told by multiple people that he's like, and we're still supposed to kind of be like, and this is our second hero that
This is the
we
innocent who
immediately
is-
are like,
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that could be, if handled properly, could be
Yes.
cool. Like the idea of a guy who thinks he's smarter than the situation. He doesn't really understand the stakes that he's in, and then he has, he learns from it. But we don't worry, we're not going to get any kind of arc or learn.
no, I
from
agree,
things.
but it could work, but the movie
Hey, you
doesn't
know
do
where it
like the
worked?
legwork to.
You know where something like that kind of works a little different?
Where?
It's a movie called Star Wars,
Uh-huh.
where Luke Skywalker, by buying the wrong droid, inadvertently it leads to the death of his aunt and uncle, and it sends him on a path of justice.
That was an accident, Elliot. He
Yeah,
didn't
well, I mean, he wanted
intentionally
to
do
get out
that.
of there. He wanted to get out of there. It was,
Yeah.
You're saying it was all part of a plan to get.
Yep.
I know the stormtroopers are probably
Yep.
looking for this droid. We got to get
Yep.
him out of the house. But I feel there's some, even the fact that you're starting this movie on like a far off agricultural planet that's isolated from this empire. Like if I was doing my Star Wars ripoff, I would do the opposite, at least on the surface of what Star Wars did. So it would seem a little less obvious that I'm trying to do almost the exact same thing. But it feels like they're trying to get off those fumes as much as possible.
Yep.
You know.
So the dreadnought leaves, but they leave a unit of soldiers behind. And as Dan mentioned, they are comically evil. They are shooting
Yeah.
each other and
Except
beating each
for
other
one.
up.
There's one good guy.
Eris is the one good one. He's a little sympathetic. And of course, Jimmy the robot, who we find out will not fight ever since the king was killed. The robots
And this
don't
is the
fight
first
anymore.
time that the king and the princess are referred to as like these sort of like noble people who like honor like died with them or something. Like the robot talks of him in these glowing terms, and I think that we as the audience are supposed to like sort of believe at least to some degree that there's like this fallen past. But then later on we see the backstory for our main character. I won't get into it yet, but like we see that when the king was around, they were like violent expansionists.
It's just as
And
bad.
I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, so wait, are we supposed to feel bad that these king got killed? Like how is the world worse now than what we saw before?
I could see it then if they were doing something a little more nuanced, that the robot has been programmed to see the royal family as noble. But you're
Yes.
right that the movie seems to be implying that it's kind of hard. The movie's so mushy that it's kind of hard to know what because it's so clear that the Empire has always been bad, or whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called. Mother World or
Yeah.
whatever has always
Let's
been
just call it
bad.
the Empire.
Okay. But it's hard to know what even like again in the Star Wars movies they're harkening back to the days of the Republic that was before the Empire. But in this there's no thing like that necessarily.
Yeah.
And so it is hard to know what were we supposed to think is good or not good, or because the king does seem terrible. Maybe Belisarius is just worse.
Except he's played by Carrie Elwes.
Yeah.
I mean, except he's played by Carrie Elways, who Flophouse listeners will again remember as Bobby Wobbly from the Oogie Loves movie.
His most iconic role.
But I think
He does have a pretty cool fake beard at one point.
That's true. It was so funny the whole time. I'm like, is that Carrie Elways under that beard?
I do like his late career turn into like sort of like venal villains.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it's all of this stuff is not just off the fumes of Star Wars, but off the fumes of ancient Rome, right?
I feel like Carrie Elwes and Hugh Grant should have a movie where they're like dueling venal villains.
I would love that. That'd be amazing. Where ancient Rome, the Republic fell. There was a first emperor.
He's always talking about ancient Rome.
Hey guys, how often do I think about ancient
I thought
Rome?
I derailed him.
No, but the first emperor brought some kind of stability, but still was not a good guy. And then when he fell, it was just a series of kind of crappy, more monstrous people for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that's the same kind of historical trope they're going after, but it's not clear. It's not, they're not doing it well. You know, it's all, considering how much time is spent explaining things to us, by the end of the movie, I was like, I don't really understand this world or the people in it. You know?
Yeah, so we get a little bit of this backstory from Jimmy the Robot because he befriends a Sam, who is a local girl who mainly fetches water.
Every time you say it, it's like
Jimmy the Robot?
you want some information? You got to go see Jimmy the Robot.
Jimmy the Robot. Beep boop.
You want pi calculated?
My memory banks are a little foggy. Perhaps a few microchips would clear them up.
All right, Jimmy, fine. Here you go.
Yeah, beep boop. I seem to remember he was driving a black Lincoln Town car.
Through space, okay.
But this scene between Jimmy the Robot and Sam, I think, is the best scene in the movie by far.
Yeah,
what do you guys
probably.
say? It's the only scene that felt like a real emotional connection to me. It does look like someone put in AI art prompts of robot with girl in idyllic setting, and it comes out like that. But
like it helps that you have Anthony Hopkins delivering it.
Yes, very much so.
I see what you're saying, but even at the time, I was like, what am I to make of this monarchist robot? Like, was he programmed like this? I was like, also, he like droids in Star Wars, he seems to have like sentience,
yes.
But he's also like, I don't know, he's collaborating with this evil government.
He's also programmed. I mean, all droids are slaves, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's just
except for IG-88, who's just a slave to his need to kill.
And be dope.
Yeah, it'd be cool. But I think you're right. But also when I was watching the movie, this was still during my I'm going to give this a fair shot phase.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Mm-hmm. So we also learned that Princess Issa is magic. Okay, that's important. It's going to matter. Okay, so the villagers get together. They decide if they work hard enough, maybe the troops will let them keep some of their harvest. And I'm like, that's not going to work.
You fool.
Did you see that guy beat the other guy to death with a bone cane?
And in fact, it doesn't seem to work because Cora tries to run off, and instead she is waylaid because she has to rescue Sam, the water-bearing villager, from being assaulted by these soldiers who are horrible, and this scene sucks.
Yeah, but also, yeah, I mean, it sucks in the sense that, like, you know, sexual violence in a blockbuster, like, we don't need that necessarily. But
it's a different vibe than what I was expecting.
Yes, but also, it sucks in the Zack Snyder way because, of course, like, there's a moment where, like, Cora's old, you know, warrior instincts get activated, and everything goes into slow motion, and she kills everybody. And I am so fucking sick of this in movies. Like, I want
I hate to break it to you, Dan. You're going to get a lot more of it from this movie.
I know.
But yeah.
But I want, like, some sense of actual danger. I don't want heroes that are, like, essentially superheroes in everything but name who can do all this awesome shit. Like, I want the idea, like, maybe someone might get hurt at some point, and I now have some rooting interest in what's happening rather
so
than
Dan,
just
you don't so you're not gonna like the scenes later when Cora's literally wading through fields of laser fire where none of the laser bolts hit her because of plot mechanics.
Yeah, she has plot armor,
but that's like a
kids
flashback, right?
That's a flash. But even here in this fight, she's surrounded by guys with guns. They almost never try to shoot her. Instead, they keep rushing at her. And it's like, this is like ninja fighting in an 80s movie where if you're up against one ninja, it is a brutal fight. But if you are up against 10 ninjas, they each take their turn. They wait until it's time for them to rush at you. And they become less and less powerful. I agree. This fight is...
And if it was in the 80s, that one ninja would be like Bolo Young or something, and you're like, that dude is so jacked.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way he can have stealth. Like, this is crazy. He's not going to be able to sneak through places.
If he's stealthy and that jacked, he's dangerous.
Unstoppable. But I agree with you, Dan, that the there's a lack of stakes and a lack of weight and everything to
Yeah.
these action
Yeah,
scenes.
this specifically, I think this might be the worst one. I don't
This
know.
one in
The
particular.
bar one's pretty bad too. They're bad, and especially
the
if
one
you're
at the
trying to
end.
introduce Korra as your hero, who's
Yeah.
also a badass. This does not bode well for the rest of the movie.
I would rather see
Yeah.
a hero who's like thinking things through and it's like, where can I find my advantages? You know, like what can I do that would plausibly make me able to take on a room full of people rather than just like, hey, now I can go into slow motion.
Well, not too long ago, my older son and I, we started watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, which he had never seen, which he's kind of lost interest in, which is too bad. I'd like to finish the movie, but he's
At least get him to the final scene where all the faces melt off.
Tell-
no, that's what
tell-
he's afraid of. He doesn't
Tell
want to see that
Sammy
part.
for me that he's wrong and he's hurt my feelings.
It's just that he doesn't want to see their faces melt. But because
Well, he's wrong about that too. It hurts my feelings.
But the thing that's so amazing about that movie partly is that Indiana Jones is constantly on the verge of failing and sometimes
Yes.
does fail. Like when he succeeds at anything, I think people remember the part where he shoots the swordsman and they forget every other moment where he is always behind the 8 ball. He's always a step back from everybody. He's never a step
Yes.
ahead. And he's constantly he's just good enough to get himself in over his head and have to figure out how to get out of it. And I'd love to see more of that type of hero. As fortunately, the only types of heroes we have now, Dan, are Korra or Star-Lord. They are either a total badass who's unstoppable or a doof idiot who just kind of stumbles his way through crap. You know,
That's where you and I differ. Like I think Star-Lord is closer in spirit to Indiana Jones. It's just like
True.
I think that's true, but I think he's a guy who should not be succeeding. Whereas Indiana Jones is like, oh, I just barely succeeded.
I think
is
you're
so bad at
imprinting
things.
how unlikable he can be sometimes.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it
Yeah,
is.
it could
Yeah.
be.
Okay, guys. So
Anyway, back to
this squad of soldiers is butchered by Kara, the defecting soldier heiress, and Jimmy the robot shows up in a clinch to shoot the last guy in the head.
No, he doesn't shoot the last guy.
I thought he did. I
No,
thought the
it
gun
doesn't-
went off.
Doesn't the other? I thought the other guy, like, it looked like has a gun. He's looking at it. Like, should I shoot? I thought the nice quote unquote like bad guy was the one who shot, and
I
like
don't
Jimmy just
remember.
runs away.
I read it as Jimmy the robot was holding the
Okay.
gun nonchalantly, and it went off and perfectly killed the guy.
We'll
Doesn't
never
matter.
know because I'll never watch this movie ever.
Yes,
again.
matter.
it is literally
Write
not
in,
worth our finding out.
Tweet at Dan and tell him exactly how you read the scene. So
This could be Dan's Ding Dong Gate.
Hagen shows up and gives Korra back her guardian
What
gun.
about Daz? Does Daz show up or just Hagen?
We'll get to Daz, Ellie. So he gives Korra back her guardian gun, which looks like a normal gun, just a little bit fancier. It's like what you would get if you you bought the DLC before buying the game. It's like a pre-order bonus. Okay.
Thanks for putting it into terms I understand.
Korra and Gunner decide to head off and find the rebels. First stop, that's right, it's Providence, I guess the capital of the planet.
Rhode Island.
Yep, Providence, Rhode Island. Look out for Cthulhu's.
Uh-oh, everyone's got the Innsmouth look.
Now, on that trip, Korra gives us a big backstory dump. And to summarize, her planet was destroyed. She was adopted by Belisarius when she attempted to kill him because he was just wandering the burning city by himself, murdering people.
So now they're also ripping off from Gamora and Thanos.
Yep.
They've got some new stuff they're ripping off.
She was forced to become a soldier in a brutal military society. There's a scene of her hoisting the standard of Mother World above a battlefield. And then later on, we find out that she was assigned to be like the bodyguard for Princess Issa. And again, she is magic. Princess
By the
Issa
way,
is magic.
Issa can
Every
bring
time-
birds back to life.
Every time Belisarius is mentioned, I think of Donald B. Belisario, the creator of Quantum Leap.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that's just a
All right,
side.
yeah.
I think
okay.
of Belisarius Call, the Archmagos of the Adeptus Mechanicum, but that's okay.
That's just
I
you.
have no
That's just me.
preconceived associations with Belisarius.
Belisarius Call's the guy who practically invented the process of turning Space Marines into Primaris Space Marines. Guys, could you?
Oh.
Where would the Imperial Crusades be without Primaris Space Marines? Also, Games Workshop wouldn't have any models to sell.
Elliot cares more about a Brontosaurus.
I
That's
do.
true.
I mean, that's true.
He
I
does.
do care more about a
Look at
Brontosaurus.
him.
We're
He's
very happy
slapping-
together.
he's
Yeah.
licking his lips. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to eat that Brontosaurus so bad.
So they get to Providence, and if you are wondering, is this is Providence a hive of scum and villainy? You'd be right. It
Mhm.
totally
You better
is.
believe it. But this is different than Star Wars' hive of scum and villainy because, again, the scum is rapier than in Star Wars.
Rapier and fewer aliens.
Yeah.
So as soon as they get to the cantina, they're trying to meet with the guy that Gunnar was like the information broker that Gunnar
It
used to
is
get
so-
in touch with the Blood Axis.
It's so funny. They're like, we better lay low. Motherworld could find out about us. Hey, anybody here know who gets in touch with the Blood Axes? Like their way of asking for information is just to literally ask people, just to go and ask them. There's no subterfuge or anything. There's
So as
one alien in this bar that I like, which I will say.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So as they arrive to the bar, their contact is being taken away by Hawkshaws, which is the term for bounty hunters in this galaxy.
Yeah.
And the bounty hunters
Star
use a
Wars.
special device, which is like a walking robot thing that also like holds you, like constricts you. It's like a walking set of manacles, basically.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's okay. They go inside. The bartender is, I think, a robot or an alien with these giant shoulder pads covered in candles. That is dope. I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
Cool
more of
look.
that.
More
Yes.
of that, please. They learn an alien puppeteer informs them that through his humanoid puppet.
Now I
That's the
love
alien
the
I
way
liked.
that you're describing that.
Yep. He gives
Now,
them a
not
lead
now,
on.
we should make sure, not a puppeteer from Larry Niven's known space novels like
No.
Ringworld. That's a different type of puppeteer. That
Well,
species.
also not like a Muppeteer like Jim Henson. This
No,
alien
not at
is
all.
not inserting a hand anywhere. What is
No,
this
it's
alien
It
kinda
has
doing?
like-
wrapped its tentacles around the neck of a. I thought it was a dead body, but I guess it's just a man in a trance of some kind.
Yeah, I feel like there might be some sort of benefit this man is getting from it too. Like it might be like a,
It's possible.
a
I mean,
two-way relationship.
Belisarius is basically having sex with a tentacle alien later in the movie, and what
Yeah.
I thought was
You're
one of the
actually
few-
talking about Admiral Atticus Noble.
Oh, that's right,
Belisarius
Atticus
is
Noble,
not
not-
fucking
That's
the
right.
squid.
Belisarius
Yeah.
doesn't show up till the very end when he is.
Also has a cool fake beard. So the alien puppeteer gives them a lead
the
on
beard really throws me off when I first
Yeah.
saw him. We'll get to that. Yeah.
The alien puppeteer gives them a lead on General Titus, now disgraced and gladiating on Pollux. And they're like, we got to find this guy. He sounds awesome. They get in a bar fight with this horned up alien asshole. They kill
It's
a bunch
like
of bad guys.
Basically, Zack Snyder saw Star Wars and he saw Dr. Evazan bothering Luke Skywalker and was like, Dr. Evazan is hitting on Luke Skywalker, right? Like he wants to have sex with him because that's what happens here is the guy with a misshapen alien face very aggressively hits.
Let's say Weinstein-esque fellow.
yeah. That's how he treats the farmer. He assumes that Korra is this farmer's pimp, I guess. But it leads to
So-
a big bar brawl.
This leads to a big bar brawl, and they come out of it with another member of their team. They team up with this scoundrel named Kai, played by, of course, that's right, Undeclared's Charlie Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam, an actor. I hear Lost City of Z is very good. I haven't
Lost
seen
City of
it.
Z is
It's
very good, and he's
Yeah, it's
very good.
He's
in it.
really good.
Like
Yeah.
he's in general, like having not seen that, he's an actor that I'm like, oh, he's good, but I have no particular feelings about him. But the amount of excitement I had that anyone with a spark of anything
Yeah.
showed up, I'm like, oh, finally, I've been stuck with these two Dullsville people. Like, at least you're doing something.
And on some level, he seems excited to be doing something other than the like thankless, boring hero role. Because I think
Yes.
he's got a little bit of charm, and he often doesn't get to do that.
Yes, I agree. I wish they gave him a more charming character to play. Like this character, nobody's given
Or
much
just
to
more
do.
Yeah.
stuff to do. So
More
he,
stuff to do. Yes, yeah.
So he, he's a little bit of a swindler scoundrel type, and he is like, "Hey, you guys are looking for fighters. I think I know some guys. I got a ship. Let's go." So they get on a ship and fly away. They head to. At this point, we cut back to the Admiral fucking a
Atticus
squid.
Noble.
It's pretty cool. Admiral Atticus Noble fucks a squid. Okay.
That was again one of the
That's
few moments where I'm
graffiti
like,
in the bathroom.
it's one of the few moments where I was like, okay, movie like this, I'd like to see more of. Just like this is not something I would see in Star Wars, but in a kind of cool way that this guy is
Yeah.
in a relationship with an alien.
Yeah, I would
But-
like to see. Well, I would like to see another level to this character where he's maybe in like a loving, understanding relationship with this alien.
Yes, as opposed to here where it seems like it's the classic coding of evil Nazi is also a sexual deviant of some
Yep,
kind.
yep.
And in that way, it applies non-traditional sexual roles to
Yep.
evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of go a little bit quickly because what we're doing is we're
I think that's a
assembling a
great
team.
idea.
So we're assembling the team. We start in New Wodi, and we meet Tarak the slave, who is very muscly. This guy is fucking cut up.
Yeah,
and he has to ride a griffin in order to get his freedom.
And he's coded like this is supposed to be the Native American style.
Yes. He can talk to animals. He's all about the peace of nature.
Yep.
And yeah, he calms a griffin.
We got no time for that, though, because next is we're at Dagus, and we meet Nemesis the swordswoman, and she fights a Drider.
She fights a spider lady, which I kind of liked. I'm like, well, this is a nice little break in the movie where I don't have to care about the larger plot. I can just see
but here,
a lady using swords on a spider.
I have 3 issues with this. One, these are 2 great actresses who are both being not fully used. This is Duna Bay from like The Host and from and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and she's fighting Jenna Malone, who plays the spider lady. I love Jenna Malone.
That's Jenna Malone.
Yes, I've always been a huge fan of Jenna Malone. I think she's amazing. I saw her in a production of Morning Becomes Electra once that she was fantastic in. But but then there's that's my main issue. These actresses are not being used well. 2.
The fight sequence is kind of boring. The setup arguably more interesting than anything else going on in this movie.
I agree. That Jenna Malone is a spider woman named Harmata, she lives in a mining colony and she's stealing human children because her own children have been killed basically by the pollution caused by the mining community. And like that should be the plot of your movie, but it becomes these people are talking to Nemesis, the swordswoman. She fights this monster. At no point does anyone try to help her fight the monster. They know this is just her because
pretty funny.
The movie is this is her show off scene. So they just stand there while she almost gets killed. And then they cut to her on the spaceship. So we never even find out why she decided to join them. But 3, she is the Asian character. So of course her thing is all about there was no honor in this kill, and the music is very kind of like stereotypical Asian-y sounding. Like, why, if we're in outer space, why do all these people have to be coded like specific human ethnicities? You know, it feels very limiting. You know, it feels very stereotypical and limiting. You know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's keep moving because now we're on Pollux and we find Titus the General, who is now sleeping off a drunk in the sewer, and they clean him up. And this is, of course, Chaman Hansu. Always great. This guy's been in so many science fiction movies.
I mean, they're assembling a good cast. It's a shame that I don't know anything about any of them or care about
They quickly convince him to team up. He's like, I can't be a general anymore. They're like, yes, you can. He's like, okay.
This part was bonkers. He spent years angry at himself for having his men die. He's been a gladiator. They give him a bath, and she says, "What about revenge?" And he looks at her and he joins. Has he never thought of the idea of revenge in the decades, I guess, or years at least that he's been a gladiator? It's so dumb. It's so ridiculous.
Now that we're almost done assembling the team, I'm sorry for taking a moment, but I want to talk a little bit about my biggest narrative problems with this thing, because this movie, it's no secret, this movie is the Seven Samurai in space, or, pick your poison, Magnificent Seven in space.
Magnificent Seven is just Seven Samurai in the West, yeah.
What? Yeah. But as I was texting Elliot, that makes perfect sense, right? Because Star Wars itself, very influenced by Akira Kurosawa, very influenced by Westerns.
Yes.
So all of this stuff in the mix makes sense. The main problem with it is you're taking a bunch of influences that were digested into a third thing, and then you're throwing them back on the digested thing, so it feels very derivative by this point.
It feels like instead of you go to an old house that has had the original moldings and things covered by new features, and you're like, I don't like these new features. I want to go back to the original. Let me put copies of the originals on top of the new stuff that's on top of the old stuff.
Yeah. So, but my one problem I have with this, though, just on a plot level, is the thing about either Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven. You have
or Seven with David Fincher movie, which is not there's not the same way. Seven means something different there. Yeah,
the villain is
lucky number 11 samurai.
The villain is this local warlord. So by assembling a team to fight them off, the villagers plausibly can overcome their problem and everything's fine thereafter. Whereas in this case, their problem is one ship from a giant galactic evil empire is threatening them. So even if they fight this ship off, like they've marked themselves for death. So that's problem number one that I have. And number two that I have is like these people are like running after like chasing the bad guys are chasing the good guys throughout this, because they want the blood whoever's or whatever. Like, but I'm just like, why
blood
not
axes.
go back to the goddamn moon, wait for them to all come up, have like an overwhelming force and take them there. You know where they live. Like, why is this all happening this way? So both of those things caused a problem for me.
I think the plotting is slipshod and messy and doesn't make sense. But I think there's two explanations I'll give to that, just to give the movie the benefit of the doubt. One, they don't really care about that village. That village is not that important. In the grand scheme of things,
they can use it as bait, I'm saying. So.
But they don't know the Blood Axes are going to be convinced to go to the village because if you were the head of a rebellion that was fighting a giant intergalactic empire and somebody came to you and said, hey, would you just defend my little village? Then you would say, I'm busy. I've got other stuff to do. But the other thing is they want Cora because they think Cora might be what was her the other name? Artesia?
I don't remember. Yeah,
and she also known as the Scar Giver, and she is as the adopted daughter of Belisarius. She is very valuable as.
Sure, but again, they can just wait for her to come back to like the place. I don't know. It seems like a waste of resources.
Look, did Luke ever go back to Tatooine? Not for a long time. And they've seen Star Wars, so they're like, we got to chase them for a while.
Does nothing but go back to Tatooine.
Well,
okay. Now that they have most of their team, they show up on Sharnan, I think, or Shannon.
Shanana.
Is this where King Levitica, the Squid Man, is?
They meet with King Levitica, the Squid Man, and he has been kind of protecting the Blood Axes, and the Blood Axes show up, and they have a little conversation. We meet Darian and Devra Bloodaxe, and Darian, after hearing their plea, realizes that they are at some level at fault for the problems of this village. So he is going to join them, and he convinces some of his followers to join as well. And this was kind of a funny moment when he starts to give a speech to his troops, and it cuts to the assembled, the heroes, and they look like, oh, check this out. Oh, wow, he's good at this. He's giving a speech. Kai at this point also agrees. He's been shuttling them around, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to fight too. And I was like, he didn't already agree to fight. But he says he's going to fight, but he has to do one last job first. He has to go drop off some stuff. And they're like, okay, that's fine. I mean, you're driving us. So, I mean, that's only fair.
And it is very funny to see the heroes helping him unload the cargo from his station. It's like, oh, I guess you just didn't want to pay a TaskRabbit to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you have us doing it. Do we get space pizza afterwards? Helping move these boxes?
But before he can finish that job, Admiral Atticus Noble and his dreadnought show up at Shannon, and they blow up the whole planet, which, they do that. I mean, it's
a lot of collateral damage for this farm moon.
Yeah, there's just something about the decision to wipe out a planet being that simple, being really kind of it becomes too much and it makes it less impactful.
Yeah. Well, it's I hate to keep going back to the Star Wars well. It's a difference between Alderaan being destroyed in the first Star Wars and whatever the head of the lead planet is in Force Awakens that gets blown up. Where in the first Star Wars, even though you're only seeing Princess Leia's reaction to it, it's treated as a big thing. This is a big, big thing that they've just done, and it's heartbreaking. And then in Force Awakens, they're like, oof, I guess if we blew up a planet, it was the planet with the government on it.
Oof, what did I do last night?
Was I blowing up planets last night?
So after our heroes, they're all on this space station, a giant floating space dock, and they're unloading boxes. And of course, Kai pulls a fucking.
Of course, they're like,
Kai
"Do you have the right permits to unload these boxes?" And then they go down to the.
I would find that way more interesting if they turn into the bureaucracy of it.
You're parked in Zone 10. Go to Zone 12.
So Kai betrays them. The boxes they're carrying burst open, and they turn into those robot manacle things. He is one of those bounty hunters. He's a Hawkshaw.
He's Hawkshaw. And this is it's supposed to feel like a big betrayal, but again, we barely know these characters. We don't care that much about them. Who cares?
Atticus Noble shows up with a little space shuttle, and he starts walking around explaining all the heroes' cool qualities, which I'm like, funny. Man, that sounds great. I haven't seen him do shit. I don't give a fuck about these people. And the thing is, I've mentioned on a recent podcast how much I love fiction where they hint at how awesome or tough somebody is for a while, and you learn through their reaction how like cool or scary a bad guy or a hero is. But I feel like this movie spends so much time just like telling you about people, and then when you get to them, you're like, I don't care. Like they're not doing anything.
Recently, how much I love assembling a team, and this movie's nothing but that, and it biffs it.
Yeah.
I'll give them this. I really appreciate it. It feels like they adapted a 6-issue old Marvel comic storyline and didn't take any of the exposition out that was in each issue in case that was the first issue that you read. So it's like if it halfway through a Daredevil movie, someone just went, Daredevil, whose heightened senses allow him to see things with his radar sense. Like, yeah, that was established, but thank you in case someone just walked into the movie now. So,
okay,
this moment was very helpful to me in clarifying who these characters were supposed to be. Not in an interesting way, but you know.
And now at Kai, at this point, we have learned that when you are manacled into one of these things, that you can take like basically like a pneumatic bolt pistol type thing,
it's
and
like
blast him in the back of the head.
You're like, it's like a reverse. What's his name? Target from No Country for Old Men.
Anton Chigurh.
Yeah,
Chigurh. Thank you. It's like a reverse one of those because instead of hitting you in the forehead, it's hitting you in the back of the head, and it for some reason it fits perfectly into these manacles in a funny way.
For some reason,
it's just a very inefficient way to do this.
It also unlocks all of these manacles, so giving the thing was maybe not the best idea.
Yeah, we don't know that part yet.
It's a combination key and extermination device. Yeah.
So Kai makes a big show of making sure that Gunner, who is the only one of our heroes who isn't in manacles because he's too much of a wimp and not a threat.
He's just a farmer.
They give him the bolt pistol, and they're like, you're gonna have to paralyze your friends, and I will step away. Everybody else don't look. And he, of course, pulls a fast.
We'll give you as much time as you need to make this decision.
He releases his friends, and he kills Kai very quickly. And I'm like, oh, Charlie Hunnam's gone. We have a battle. The battle is, let's say, not particularly interesting. But in the middle of it,
I have to say, I checked out hard during this battle. I didn't keep track of who was doing what. I didn't care. It was so boring and so dark and hard to see what was happening.
For me, it was the biggest snooze.
So there's
the older I get, the less I'm interested in big gunfight laser battle scenes, and this was like the apex of that. Of me just being like, let me just get to the point where the bad guys are falling on the ground and the good guys are standing up still.
Mm-hmm. Well, the bad guys have like a little space shuttle that it features a single pilot who seems to be also manning the guns, and it's an exposed canopy, which is perfect.
I'm glad that you made that is something I noticed that I was like, this is a bad design for this major military weapon.
And he's like blasting the crap out of the like little fighter ships that Darian Bloodaxe brought along. And then Darian Bloodaxe, he sacrifices himself to save his troops and everybody else by like jumping on with a giant spear and like killing the pilot, but he himself dies. The shuttle crashes onto the dock, which separates a section, leaving Cora and Noble to fight on this tiny little platform. She has no weapon. He has that cool metal bone staff that he has been beating people up with, but it's not enough. She beats the shit out of him super fast and stabs him with his own staff and kicks his ass off the platform. We're like, oh, he's dead. Too bad. I liked him. They return. I hope that squid's going to be okay. They return.
The next scene should have been the squid crying over his body.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, man. Like, it's the fucking Rancor Keeper bit.
Yeah.
Where like,
yes.
What a moment. What a great movie. And then
it's got its flaws, that one, but you know.
Yeah. What are you talking about? So they return, our heroes return to the village on Velt. They have this moment where they're like, oh, that place looks like a nice place to die. And I'm like, yeah, it would have been, dude. I wish the fight had been here instead on this shitty, boring, dark dock.
It will be in part 2 or part 3.
And speaking of part 2 or part 3, we see Noble is picked up by his buddies. They retrieve his body. They force him into this like futuristic Skype call with his boss who threatens him. And then they revive him. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
We did it. Child of Fire.
Was one of the fighters that goes to the village at the very end, was it that one member of Bloodaxe's rebellion who has a couple lines who it's implied? So, okay. So there's this, when Bloodaxe is like giving his speech, he's like, are we going to help these people? And one person goes, I'll go with you, if only to keep you from dying. And then later when he sacrifices himself, she's like, no, and goes into berserker anger shooting. And I don't know the character's name. I don't know who they are.
I think it was like Milius
maybe, yeah, something like that.
Obviously, a reference to John Milius, the director.
who also likes shooting things while screaming. Yeah, it was just one of these things where it was like you can't just throw in this character with this amount of shorthand and then have me treat them as a major hero member of the group.
You don't think he can? Because I think Zack Snyder thinks he can.
I think he just did.
Yeah.
What a
so we did it, guys. We made it through that whole movie.
Yeah, I want to commend you, Stuart.
Thanks.
You did a great job.
2.5-hour film, ably synopsized, without too much of the crap left in.
And you came to the lore master himself over here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ark Magos Stewart.
Now, speaking of lore, what's great about Rebel Moon is it's not just a movie. It's not just a series of movies. They've already announced
a multimedia experience.
It is. They've already announced the huge multimedia world. There's going to be a role-playing game. There's going to be a graphic novel. There's going to be, they're already talking about TV series prequels that go with it. They're talking about other movies that are prequels. And it's like, a
Who's
narrative
talking about them?
podcast
Zack Snyder?
was announced. Zack Snyder's company. But it feels like this is one of those times where they're really putting the cart before the horse. I feel like
this is this year's Dark Universe.
Scrolling down the Letterboxd reviews, even you get the outliers, like the real true Snyder hardcore people, but I feel like even the people who are inclined to maybe not hate everything Zack Snyder are giving this bad reviews. We're just bored by it, etc. So I don't know. I don't know about the future for the
part 2 is definitely coming out because the
Mooniverse.
They already released the teaser, which looks like more of the same. There's nothing. It's not new. Oh, there was going to be
part 2, the Scar Giver, right?
The Scar Giver.
Yeah.
Great. We can finally.
Yeah, there's a comic book series
scars.
that's going to depict the backstory for the Blood Axe siblings.
Wow.
They've already talked about an Atticus Noble prequel
Just
of
let
some kind.
a thing be one thing, and then maybe if it's successful, it can be a few other things.
It's a
but no more.
Balisarius TV series. That's what it is. Yeah. Well, when Star Wars came out. It's not like people were like, okay, finally, we can make 100,000 things off of this. See if it works once, and if it works once, then build on it.
Well, speaking of whether it works, we should get.
On the other hand, Zack Snyder is much more successful than us.
Final.
It's true.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's the one marker of anything.
Yeah.
Final judgment.
Worthington's Law. Yeah.
Is it a good, bad movie? A bad movie? A movie you kind of liked? I want to say something here. As Elliot,
guys, can I say something?
Can I get real? As
I would have fucked this movie.
Oh, wait, Dan's turning his chair around. He's straddling the chair.
As Elliot referenced, normally I'm the soft touch on the Flophouse podcast. Mm-hmm. Look back at the last episode about a full movie. I was the one who kind of liked it. God help me. I kind of enjoyed watching the Snyder cut of Justice League, at least in so much as I thought it was more interesting than the other cut. And there's certain bits in it that I thought was like, okay, sure, why not?
Speed Force.
This fucking movie, though, it's not the most boring thing we've seen. It's certainly not the most incompetent thing we've seen. But the more we do this podcast, the only movies I outright hate are the ones that feel utterly bereft of any kind of original imaginative spark and just feel like a thing that was made because there was money over here, and
because this is the kind of thing they think people might want to see.
Yeah, and I this movie is garbage.
Well, I would say
that's
goes
what
first.
I want to say about it.
I mean, it is a movie that has no reason for existing. Nothing about it is interesting or exciting. It's not making a point. And Zack Snyder, say what you will about him, he's a director who, for the most part, makes movies where I feel like he really wants to make that movie, and he really cares about what the movie is doing and saying. I don't love his movies, but he
supposed to be a nice enough man, from what I understand.
And when he has you can see in his movies a passion for what he's doing and for the storytelling, going all the way back to 300 and Watchmen, and was it Dawn of the Dead? He did, right?
Dawn of the Dead, probably his strongest movie because he's got a good script.
Guys, it's got a CGI zombie baby.
Yeah, and I would take, or you look at a previous Flophouse Zack Snyder movie, Sucker Punch, a movie I do not like, but the entire time it feels like it is the vision of a specific artist who is working in a palette I don't like, the composition I don't like, the end product I don't like, the style and the tone I don't like, but it feels unique in its own way. Whereas this feels like, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody else made this and then Zack Snyder like put his name on it afterward. Like it feels like someone who is trying their hardest to make a Zack Snyder-ish thing, but without any of that passion or that inspiration. You're right, Dan. It's like when I was saying at the beginning, watching this movie, I was like, why don't I like this? It's so completely lifeless and predictable. Whereas I like cheesy science fiction stuff, and I like it when it's cheesy, partly because it feels like it's full of energy. And this is so it just dead. It lies there dead, and there's nothing going on there.
So Stuart, 12 stars. What do you?
Yeah, here's the thing. So if you want Star Wars, if you want Star Wars but funny, you got Spaceballs. You want Star Wars that's like a little bit racy. There's like a million Star Wars porn parodies. If you want Star Wars but it's like, I don't know, more of a Western, there's fucking Firefly and shit.
If you want heavy metal, go watch The Fifth Element.
If you want
or heavy metal.
If you want a Star Wars that's specific, like a science fiction movie or a story that's about assembling a team, watch a fucking playthrough of Mass Effect 2. That shit's awesome. I mean, you could just do that. Just Google it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Is that copyrighted? Can we use that?
We can just do it.
I think it said that Mickey Mouse is in the public domain now. I think just do it is also, probably,
everything
right?
is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a bad, and the biggest thing is that it is just like, it is just warmed over stuff. And you're not going to see anything that even remotely feels new, except for maybe the candles on the shoulders bartender.
Or maybe like this. Maybe when he I was going to say even when Nemesis is fighting the Spider-Woman, but the Spider-Woman is even just warmed over Angelica Houston from from Captain EO. So like there's stuff in here. There's so many. But anytime you see like a bartender who's a robot god with candles on his shoulders, who's an alien, you're like, oh, somebody in this was doing something original, and I wish there was more of that. Yeah, more of it.
Hello, everyone out there. Thank you for coming to our service.
Yes.
We are ready to heal you. We are Ross and Carrie. We are faith healers. Yes, you there.
Yes, sir. You have a spirit of
not listening to enough podcasts.
We have the solution for that.
Oh, we can cure you.
You should listen to Oh No, Ross and Carrie. Hallelujah. It's on Maximum Fun.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you there. Gladys.
A spirit of boredom?
Oh my goodness, we have the solution for you. It is to listen to the podcast.
Oh no, Ross and Carrie.
The human mind can be tricky. Your mental health can be complex. Your emotional life can be complicated. So it helps to talk about it. I'm John Moe. Join me each week on my show, Depression Mode with John Moe. It's in-depth conversations about mental health with writers, musicians, comedians, doctors, and experts. Folks like Noah Kahn, Sashir Zameda, and Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. We talk about depression, anxiety, trauma, imposter syndrome, and perfectionism. We have the kind of conversations that a lot of folks are hesitant to have themselves. Listen, and you won't feel as alone, and you'll have some laughs, too. Depression Mode from Maximum Fun at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Flophouse is sponsored in part by Rocket Money. Bored by all those rockets and Rebel Moon? How about Rocket Money instead? There's less space opera, but it'll help you more with your personal finances. Here's a question. If I asked you how many subscriptions you have, would you be able to list all of them and how much you're paying? Exactly,
what
Stuart.
Are you, a cop?
The amount you're spending may surprise you. Rocket
Dan, you
Money,
have to tell him if he asks you.
That's a canard. Rocket Money can help find
No, that's
and
a duck,
cancel
isn't it?
unused subscriptions. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. This sounds good to me. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Hey, it's a new year. Why not clean out the cupboard of those unused, unwanted subscriptions? You can cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/flop. That's rocketmoney.com/flop, rocketmoney.com/flop.
Hey guys, you're probably listening to this podcast on the internet, and you know what's on the internet? Websites. You know how you get your own website? The best way to do that shit is with Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that gives you the tools you need to make a really cool website, because you know what you need? That's right, a website. So, some of the things Squarespace offers, they give you information on how many people and who is visiting your website and what they're doing with that information. They have all the stuff you need to set up a web store so you can take money and you can build your business. And with their next generation website design system, you can take your own creativity and you can add a little bit of juice thanks to what Squarespace is providing. So, you need to head to squarespace.com/flop for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, which you should be soon, use offer code FLOP to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Very exciting. And there's also some very exciting Flophouse promotional news. As you may have heard at the very top of this episode, if you didn't skip through it, the Flophouse is going on tour at the end of January. That's right. It's a 4-city West Coast tour. All the cities of the West Coast that matter. Just kidding. Seattle, we still like you, but we're not going to this time. We're going to 4 cities. On January 24th, we'll be in Vancouver, Canada, to talk about the movie Cobra. On January 25th, we'll be in Portland, Oregon, to talk about the movie Cool as Ice. On January 26th, we'll be in San Francisco as part of the San Francisco Sketchfest at Cobb's Comedy Club, talking about Gigli. And on January 28th, we'll be in Los Angeles at the Regent Theater talking about Spawn. That's right. It is an all 90s except for the 80s and also early 2000 movie. And we can't wait to be...
That's the theme. Thank you.
That's the theme. We can't wait to be in front of you, entertaining you, meeting fans. We love these live shows. We're so excited to do them again. We want you to come out and talk to us. We're going to be doing presentations. We're going to talk about the movies, and I'm sure we'll be shaking hands afterwards, maybe kissing babies. We'll see. Bring a baby. We'll find out. And the tickets, they're all in one place, kind of. If you go to flophousepodcast.com/events, it will lead you to all the information about those shows and also where to buy tickets. Some tickets are still available. They are going at a pretty good clip, so we hope that you have a chance to buy them before they go bye-bye themselves. Buy before bye-bye. Thank you. We also want to remind you, thank you, Stu, was applauding for me. We also want to remind you that Flop TV may be over in terms of new episodes, but those videos are going to be up online through the end of January, so you can still buy a season's pass if you go to theflophouse.simpletix.com. You can buy a season pass and watch all 6 of those recordings of Season 1 of Flop TV. Season 2, TBD.
And you can binge them all and watch us get older each episode.
Yeah.
1 month each episode.
Each time.
Yeah. I did look at a photo recently that was like at most 2 years older. And I'm like, why have I aged so much? What happened?
I feel like things have been going on in the world, Dan, that might age you.
Could be.
I think so, very much so.
Yeah, but if you're interested, we're nearing the end of the Flop TV window. Just check it out before the end of January.
Buy it before it goes bye-bye. Buy before bye-bye. That's my new slogan. But if you want to see us in person, it's still happening if you're in Vancouver, Portland, San Francisco, or Los Angeles at the end of January. Flophousepodcast.com/events. And again, to buy a season pass to watch those videos before they're gone, theflophouse.simpletix.com.
Jane, did you buy all your outfits for those live shows yet?
Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Dan told me he was going to buy an outfit themed to each city.
Let's not set expectations that we can't deliver on. And we have a Jumbotron. And here it is. It goes like this. Hey, Peaches lovers. I know a lot of you love comics. And I hope you will love my upcoming book, How Comics Were Made, a visual history from the drawing board to the printed page. The book looks at 130 years of newspaper comics, how artists drew their work for reproduction, and the bizarre and complicated processes that transformed them for print. The book heads to crowdfunding in February 2024. See a preview at howcomicsweremade.inc. And in this case, that's I-N-K, like the things that people draw with. The stuff. And sign up for an announcement or free newsletter. once again, that call to action is why don't you visit howcomicsweremade.ink to find out more and sign up for a free newsletter and book announcement. That sounds like a book I might be interested in. Hey. Well, look at this.
Hey,
Hey guys. Look at this.
get
This
off of my cloud.
This first letter, pertains to what we were just talking about, these live shows. This is from Jemay, last name withheld, who writes, see you at your live show at the Aladdin on January 25th. My son won't let me come home from the show without a signed dedication and his copy of Sharko and Hippo, so don't let me down. I love my family and would miss them terribly. Don't know if you guys have excellent advanced PR work or just a fan at the best historic community-owned theater in the world, but I just nabbed tickets to the Hollywood Theater's January 20th showing of Cool as Ice. I was wondering how I'd be able to sit down and enjoy the movie as opposed to just slogging through it alone on my sofa before your show, and this is it.
That is a blast to watch with a crowd.
It is.
Yeah.
Stuart and I, did we introduce it?
Yeah, we did an introduction at the Nighthawk.
At the Nighthawk, and oh boy, was that fun! So, if this enterprising listener who may or may not have some attachment to this theater, who knows? But it's good. It's good to get
I
it out
don't even know why you would plant that suspicion in the minds of the listeners.
I mean, either
The
way,
fix is in.
I don't care because if you want to see this movie before the show, the best way to do it is probably with a big
crowd.
audience.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of fun. It's a bad movie. So this person says, if you got a chance between now and the 20th, let the world know they can join fellow Flop fans at the Hollywood 5 days before your show. And they also say if you have any free time in Portland, drop by Movie Madness, the video store owned by the Hollywood Theater, and see their memorabilia along with a stunning collection of rentable movies. So that's a tip from out there in the world.
Wait, you can rent a movie?
Yeah.
Okay. In this economy?
I mean, in this economy, like renting them piecemeal would probably be better than
With
Yeah.
piecemeal, you
subscribing
mean
to-
like a scene at a time, like on the installment plan?
That's right.
Uh-huh.
A penny a minute.
That's a pretty good deal for a regular length movie.
Yeah. Well, let's start it.
Okay.
Let's shutter the flop house and pivot into penny a minute movie rentals.
Yeah, it's called
First, we have to buy
some
up
movies.
a catalog.
Yeah.
But-
Pennyworth movies.
Yeah, and when your time's up, like a little screen lowers down over your screen, so you can't see it anymore.
Yeah, and you could talk to the movie on a little handset phone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Elliot knows. Elliot's been there.
No, I haven't been.
Elliot knows what I'm talking about.
I
He's
don't.
a nasty boy.
I'm not.
Elliot's the nicest boy. What is there? This
I'm not that
next,
either. I'm middle. I'm in the middle.
This
yeah.
next later. This next ladle.
This next ladle, it has holes in it, so it doesn't hold the soup that well. But you could get a
probably
potato
not
out of a stew with it.
Right for your needs.
I guess
but
during
I'm
our
just-
recording break, Dan did a bunch of whippets.
This next ladder.
This next letter goes like this. Why do birds suddenly appear every time you talk about movies? Scott, last name withheld, but it's me, Weinberg, the overhated guy from the Artemis Fowl episode. Makes a good point. Why are all these birds in here, Elliot?
You're the one who leaves your
Right.
windows open when you record.
Oh, that's true.
That's a
true.
lovely poem by, by
Yeah,
Scott
an original
Weinberg.
work.
I just found out that Dan's wife doesn't like poetry, and I'm like, any kind? Not even like
Christmas
commercial
cards?
jingles? Not
What
even
about
the
like a
Cars
rhyming
for
telegram?
Kids song?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, there's some poetry I like, but it's of the written arts. I'm just like, why don't you just give this to me in some prose? Prose works pretty well for
because
most
beauty?
applications.
Because
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Plot only,
Is it
please.
is it that beautiful?
Robert Frost, just tell me that I should take some chances sometimes.
Well, yeah,
Hey, Keats,
I'm
calm
not-
down.
I'm just not going
I
to
get
sit
it,
down
Edgar Allan Poe. You're sad your wife died. There's a bird in the room. You left your windows open too. I get it.
Maybe it's controversial. I'm just not going to sit down and read a lot of poetry. I'm not trying to say that no one should feel that way, or everyone should feel that way. Like people should enjoy
I feel like the
poetry
New
if
York Times agrees with you. Didn't they
I'm
just
just
end their
not.
poetry column?
Not that into
I
it.
think they did. Dan, I'm now imagining you sitting next to the Ancient Mariner going, speed it up, will you? Wrap it up.
Skip to
You're
the
making me
end.
He
ancient
does
here.
take a long time to tell a pretty
And they do need to
simple
get
story.
to a wedding. Yeah, that's true.
Like, yeah. Okay, you killed a bird and then things went south for you. I get it, man.
I mean, guys, if a dude just walked up to you on the street and started telling you this story, right? You'd be like, "Get out of here!"
Get out of here, man.
I mean, an old man and I have to be somewhere. Again, they're on their way to a wedding. And he's like,
And you're like,
but
"Is
let
that
me tell you more.
Is that a bird around your neck? And he's like,
Well, it's a long story. He's like, no, I'm not interested. no, let me tell you.
So,
Okay.
not to nitpick, he doesn't have the bird anymore. It fell off of his neck when he realized that all God's creatures should be loved. So you're saying that maybe he just got used to it. Now he has a different bird around his neck?
yeah. Well,
Yes.
it's a style thing. He's used to that fucking bling.
Yeah, that's right.
You're like, now I've got a peacock around my neck. Pretty sharp, right?
I mean, damn, that's a cool bird. I wonder what its brains would taste like. Gotta make a souffle out of them.
Let's move into
Or casserole. What did the Sun King eat? He had like casseroles with peacock brains or some crap.
Something like that.
Let's move
That
into
was the letters bag. That
Oh, wow.
was the letters segment. We sewed it up tight. No letters can't get out anymore. Keep your eyes on that bag. The letters are trying to escape, and if they do, all hell will break loose. We gotta keep them in there. Luckily, we hired a new security guard, Ben Stiller. Oh no! All sorts of shenanigans are gonna happen overnight. That's right. It's night at the letter bag. Night at the letter bag. The letters are closed.
Okay, well, changing it up for 2024.
Now the letter
lot-
songs end the segment
Interesting.
until I forget.
Let's bring this episode to a close with the final segment, which is, pardon me, recommendations of movies that you should definitely watch instead of this. I mean, you don't have to watch it. I'm just saying, don't watch.
No, yeah.
Rebel-
If
like,
our
it's
recommendation could be
oddities-
just don't watch Rebel Moon, watch no movies at all.
Yeah.
If Rebel Moon's the only option, then yeah.
Don't sit around and read poetry.
you can
Certainly
do it
don't
if
do
you,
that.
If that's what you enjoy, God bless you. I'm just saying it's never.
Yeah.
been
God
much
will
for
bless
me.
you with the beauty of poetry.
There's some
Yeah.
poets I like. I like Yeats. Yeats has got
Yeah.
some stuff.
Name
But
2
I'm
Yeats
just-
poems you like. Now I'm challenging Dan.
There's that one about walk softly because I'm walking on my dream. You're walking on my dreams, and there's that one about how the falcon can't hear the falconer anymore
That's
because the gyre
sure.
has widened too much.
Yeah. Second coming. Yeah. What rough beast, etc.
Anyway,
Okay, what's another poet that you like? So Yeats. Okay.
Billy.
Billy Butler.
There's some Dickinson I like. She keeps it short. I like it.
So this is you're a poet. You like poetry that doesn't take up your time.
Mm-hmm.
You're not one for a Thanatopsis.
There's that Variations on a Theme by William Carlos Williams, which is a very funny poem. But
Okay,
Kenneth
sure.
Cock. Look that
So
one up.
you're more of an Ogden Nash type poetry reader. Short, silly poems.
I mean, yeah, if I had a choice between a short and silly poem and a long and non-silly poem, yes, I'm going to go with short and silly. That's my
Okay.
personal preference. Again, apologies if I've broken the hearts of any poets out there. If you find beauty in it, that's enough. You know what? Anyway,
Hold on. There's some angry letters coming through the transom right now from a first name withheld Neruda. Oh no.
I'm familiar with his works.
Okay. Here's one from William Carlos, last name withheld. Thanks, Dan.
Sure.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't have eaten my goddamn plums if he wanted me to like his shit.
He was so busy
I was
worrying about that
saving them
wheelbarrow. So much
for
dependent on
breakfast.
that wheelbarrow.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. He shouldn't have eaten those plums. Yeah.
So, speaking of movies,
Yeah.
these are ones we're recommending. I caught up with, William Friedkin passed away. I caught up with his last film, The Caine Mutiny Court Martial, which in a lot of ways is a return to how he started out shooting plays for television.
Mhm.
And it's a movie that, look, it doesn't have a lot of visual pyrotechnics, although I think that the shots and the editing is very carefully chosen, but it takes almost all of it takes place in the courtroom. Almost all of it is a court case, a fairly realistically presented court case. And so if you're looking for, a lot of vivid style and big incident, it's not a film for you. But it shows that what a group of talented actors, a very great talented cast for that, a talented director can do with material that is a very traditional courtroom drama, and how much drama can be wrung out of that. And it seems like I'm damning it with faint praise. I'm just saying that probably in the span of Friedkin's works, it's a more minor one, but it's one that I enjoyed watching, and is widely available right now. If you have, I think it's on Showtime, which comes bundled with Paramount Plus these days. Paramount Plus with Showtime, a thing that could have been avoided if they just said Paramount Plus Showtime, but they didn't.
Or
anyway.
if everyone decided that merging all things into one big thing,
that's also a problem.
A hellish media Katamari Damacy was not the right thing to do.
Who's looking into buying Paramount Plus now? I feel like
Warner
that's
Brothers,
getting merged into
right?
Jesus.
Wasn't Warner Brothers Discovery gonna buy Paramount?
Yeah,
right.
So I guess we just gave
Hold on
up
to your
on that
DVDs,
whole
folks.
monopoly thing and regulating this sort of stuff.
We did give up on that. Well,
Okay.
we don't need to get in that here, but I think because the entertainment business is considered a not serious business, it is often not given the same regulatory
It's one of our
eye.
top exports as a nation, anyway. Let's go on.
Okay, cool.
I agree with you, Dan. I'm not
we're
telling
on your
you,
side.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
Why
that
are you
was
mad at me?
directed. That was directed at you. I was incensed, Elliot, specifically at you.
Okay, I'll team up with you, Dan.
Well,
Let's
just
look
because
up
I'm the
Elliot.
head of the Justice
Let's take him
Department's
down.
antitrust division.
Yes. I just like you, like I just like poetry now.
Oh, man.
Okay, so
Dan says, Elliot, you're a poem. That's not a compliment.
we since we're recommending movies about courtroom stuff, I'm gonna recommend Anatomy of a Fall. Came out this year. It's from France. And it's really great. It's right away, it's about a family, and the husband dies, and the resulting court case that is tied with that, and how in the process of litigating this murder, death, suicide, who knows, they end up kind of litigating the relationship between these people, and it's really great. And I liked it a lot. And there's a very good dog actor who is a very good boy. And don't worry, nothing really bad happens to him.
It's a European movie, so it's about ambiguity.
Yay, that's true. Dan's right. Wait, did you know
Ooh.
that, or did you just guess because
I
it's
just
European?
assume that's one of those movies.
I'm going to recommend a not new movie because I am behind on my screeners. And by behind on my screeners, I mean each time I'm about to recommend something, it turns out Stuart has recommended it an episode or two before me.
That's right. Stuart's got his finger on the pulse of good-ass new movies.
Yep. So I'm going to recommend an old artsy thing that I assume Stuart has not seen. This is a short film. It's not super short. It's like 50 minutes long or something like that. From 1981 called You Are Not I. It was made by Sarah Driver, and Jim Jarmusch is the cinematographer on it. That's the world that kind of comes out of. And it is a story about a woman, a lot of voiceover narration about a woman who is disturbed and manages to escape from the asylum that she's been sent to because there's a car crash outside, and it becomes a distraction that she can kind of use to get out. And eventually she is taken to the home of her sister, who had initially sent her to this asylum, and a sort of low-key battle of wills.
Wait a minute.
Comes
Loki's
about
in
between
it?
them. No, okay, I said it wrong. Maybe a creepy but not overtly violent Battle of Wills.
Okay, cool.
And now you're like the Journal of the Wills, the original screenplay for Star Wars, and I'm like, no. And I found it to be one of the better movies I've seen about taking me into a mindset that is not understanding reality in an accurate way, let's say. And I found it really eerie and had a really great atmosphere to it. So that is You Are Not I, and it's a short film that you should be able to find.
So the letter U are
No, the word
the letter
you,
I.
Y-O-U, are not I.
Okay.
The letter I, as in
thought
the
it was
word I.
instructing that letters are different
But
from
wait,
one another.
It's not spelled the way that like a hip hop song from the
Yeah.
90s would be spelled.
UB40.
No. Oh, that was the original title of This Is 40, I think.
actually.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have been awesome.
And sometimes IBS. Aging.
Dan, don't miss, folks. So what do we do next now that
The
we've
toilet.
recommended current movies and talked about poetry
When
a
Dan's
bunch?
making a poop joke, you best not miss.
I'm gonna pass out because I'm coughing and laughing.
There's a word. Coughing is a portmanteau of coughing and laughing.
Oh,
Laughing is also a portmanteau of laughing. and
What do we
coughing.
do at this point in the podcast? Oh, this is the
Well, we
part
say
where
goodbye, I think.
we thank our editor, Alex Smith. You can find him all over the internet under the name Howell Doughty and sometimes under his actual name. We want to thank Maximum Fun, our podcasting network. Without them, it would be a lot harder to do this show. Significantly harder. It would involve a lot of work that we don't want to do. So thank you. And if you want to check out other great podcasts on the network, go to MaximumFun.org. If you want to buy a Jumbotron, we didn't mention it before, but over at MaximumFun.org/Jumbotron, that's where that happens. And, if you want to, leave us a kind review on iTunes probably, or someplace else if there's a place that takes podcast reviews. We'll take that as well. But anyway, I like to cover all the bases.
yeah,
guys.
yeah. Pick up a copy of the fucking Peddler's Post and scroll it in the margins.
But for this episode of The Flophouse, I have been Dan McCoy.
Hey, it's me, Stuart Wellington.
And I'm Elliot Kalin saying Rebel Moon to ya.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye before you bye-bye.
God, is it sweltering in here or is it me?
That's you're going through the changes, buddy.
Yeah, Dan, I think you're going through Danapause.
Changes. All right.
Maximum Fun,
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
directly
by you.